What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we gotta talk about greed, microtransactions, and the nature of this business, because I think the entire gaming industry is beginning to shift into a very different and very dangerous direction. And it really kind of boils down to the fact that a lot of the publishers, developers that we love the most, well, a lot of these people are no longer trying to make games in the typical sense. This isn't the same business that it was 10 years ago. We now exist in an era where you can constantly try and milk every single fan for every single penny you possibly can. And I think that this is a very dangerous precedent, but something about this seems particularly wrong because I don't see any other businesses shifting this direction. So what kind of got me on this train of thought is, this week I've randomly been reading a book called I Hear She's a Real Bitch, and this is really fantastic, but basically, it's about this lady who runs a bunch of different restaurants, and one of the things she said that really kind of hit a note with me is she talks about the fact that if you're trying to compete in the burger business, all you really need to do is make a profit and sell the best burger possible. If you're making the best meal, people are going to show up from anywhere to try and buy it. And what's kind of strange is that's the way the games industry used to be. I mean, if you were trying to make a weird game like Final Fantasy Type 0 or a new Metal Gear Solid, both of these are going to be competing against each other to be the best burger. Whereas now, it's not really the case. If you're trying to sell something like this nowadays, it's not about having the best bun or the best meat. It's about how many times you can milk the person for extra cash. In 2018, this project would sell you the bun and the burger, which is the game itself, but separately, it would have DLC for the bread, the pickles, the mustard, every single thing they can, because really that's the way we're in. They would sell you extra maps, characters, and even save slots, because that's what actually happened in the new Metal Gear Survive. I feel like things are beginning to shift in a direction, but it's not really because of us. Microtransactions seem like they're beginning to target a totally different demographic. It's starting to remind me of other industries that have sort of suffered this thing, which is that everybody is trying to chase that next billion-dollar IP. I mean, really think about the fact that major developers are happy making hundreds of millions of dollars, but everybody behind the scenes seems like they're just obsessed with trying to nail down that next big project like Fortnite or something that continually milk its fan base like Overwatch. These games may only sell cosmetic microtransactions, but other people are starting to try and shift into that lane just as an experiment. I mean, look at something like Square Enix just recently published the new Tomb Raider game, which is called Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It's a pretty fantastic game with some great combat and some cool climbing mechanics that I really admired. But what's really peculiar to me is now, after launch, they've announced that there won't just be one extra little expansion or perhaps a couple extra maps you're going to be wandering around in. They're going to be selling 7 pieces of massive DLC, each one of these with a separate price tag. Now, why is that? I think it's pretty obvious that what they're trying to do is not just make it where this game is more profitable, they're trying to make it where every single fan who buys the game feels like they need to continually pay a cycle of payments. This is something that I feel like is very strange to me because so many games are randomly jumping on that boat when they don't really need to. They're trying to do it to see if they can train the audience to like it. That is the overall goal here. It's not about how much you and I buy, it's about how much can they try and get out of the next group and the next group until everybody is completely acclimated to the idea of microtransactions. I mean, look what happened with Destiny 2. I feel like this is such a fascinating example of a game that ended up getting basically killed by its own greed, because at the start, I think that they had a lot of good intentions. Bungie as a studio is somebody who genuinely cares about making every single moment of the action feel really fast and crazy and really chaotic, so I understood what they were going for with Destiny 2, but it's a little bit peculiar when you notice that every piece of downloadable content had a really big price tag on it Rant and came out relatively quick. That game's been out a year and I think has 4 massive expansions, each one costing $20 and the final one costing $40. All of that is very, very steep. But on top of that, there are microtransactions baked into the game via the in-game store called the Eververse. This is separate transactions that let you basically customize your guns in different ways and buy different shaders and stuff. Things like these are incredibly predatory in my opinion because they're trying not just to make it where they get extra cash, but to build up a psychological system in your mind of constantly paying to constantly play. These are games that are trying to set up a new generation to be even more ready to consume and consume and consume. Look at all the games that are beginning to experiment with the free-to-play model. Perhaps the strangest thing that I've noticed in 2018 is the games that started out having a price tag and later on became free or got a free version. Now, something that's doing this right now is Diablo Immortal. That's the Final Fantasy fighting game. Now, at the start, this was a $60 full-priced release. Sitting on store shelves, you picked it up, you used some fighters, you had some fun, and eventually we all got bored of it. But they kept coming out with tons and tons of big releases. More and more people being added to the roster in a way to try and entice people to come back. And it didn't seem to work. So now they're going to make a free-to-play version of Diablo in Japan. Now what's really weird about this is it's going to make it where you can only play as particular characters at certain times, like Cloud and Yuna on particular days, to make it where eventually people are going to want to try and buy each of the characters one by one until they have the whole roster. Now, what's the point of this? To once again develop the cycle of consumption. Buy, create, create, create. It's more than just a matter of keeping in business. It's a new monetization model that is just very peculiar to me. Somebody else that's trying to do this right now, and it's not going super well, is, of course, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which was a bust-out phenomenon last year. Everybody was playing it, it was topping charts, it was in every single headline. But now, the player base has badly sloped off. People are quitting because they just honestly got bored of it. So now, they're experimenting with the idea of trying to make it free. It's about to be free on Games Pass, and to try and compensate for the fact that this game is free, it is filled with microtransactions to a heavy degree. Some of them are costumes that cost $15. Keep in mind that this game originally cost $20. That means if you just want to try and have all the different costumes that you can actually freemium buy, that is more than the entire game cost originally many times over. These styles of monetization are something I'm very, very against because it's not just about upfront fees. It's about trying to instill the idea of possible spending later. I mean, look at something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This game in general plays pretty decent, but the fact that they can make it where you can spend real cash to level up quicker and therefore skip content or make yourself incredibly powerful is greedy, dirty, and downright awful. And I think that all of this is an effort to try and make it where the next generation is a lot more prepared for it. Now you notice that I keep saying next generation. I'm actually specifically talking about kids. So a study came out just today that I'm very, very troubled by, which shows that many kids over in the UK, specifically is where the study was done, you see that more and more children are actually spending tons of cash every single week on microtransactions. Some of this is in cell phone games, and some of this is for actual full-priced things. It's showing that people are already becoming much more acclimated to the idea of pay to play, content for constant cash. This is very, very troubling to me, and the fact that this is showing such a rampant growth is the worst part of all. These are not numbers that have been stagnant. More children are spending more money than ever, and this is not an accident. This is targeted marketing, in my opinion, and it's beginning to remind me of the cigarette industry. So smoking is obviously very, very bad for you, and because of it, that is a very tough market. I mean, the people who produce these things know that their audience basically is going to be constantly shrinking. The people who are smoking are also dying. So how are you going to constantly get more people to pick these these things up? Well, by selling it to kids. Targeted advertising. This is a very real thing. In fact, there have been several big lawsuits involving this. I mean, seriously, you know the Flintstones, the cute little characters that go on have fun little adventures in the Stone Age? There were commercials with the Flintstones smoking cigarettes and talking about that great smooth flavor. Also, think about the fact that in the 90s, they invented this mascot called Joe Camel. Well, obviously, we've all seen Joe Camel. In a study that happened in 1991, more kids understood Joe Camel as a mascot than Mickey Mouse, the face of Disney. That is what is now beginning to seep into the gaming industry. It's not just about trying to milk the hardcore fan base. It's not just trying to get a lot of money from rich kids with a credit card. It's now about trying to acclimate everybody in the audience to not be outraged by microtransactions. They want your wallet, they want your kid's wallet, and they're going to keep trying to find new ways to get it. This is what I truly think is going to happen, but my biggest fear is that coming soon, we're going to be seeing a lot more games randomly become free to play. Games like Fallout 76 are probably going to start getting a free mode that you can start, get addicted to, and later pay a lot more than $60 to try and enjoy. In my opinion, the only way we're going to be able to stop this new uprising trend is to be very vocal about it. Now, I'm not telling you to yell, I'm not telling you to be irrational, but I am saying that when stuff like this takes place, make your voice heard. Calmly but forcefully tell people, hey, this sucks. I don't want to pay more for the same game. Let me have my fun, let me swipe my credit card, and go on my own little adventure. But this stuff, it's downright dirty. But what do you think about this? Are you somebody who's ever spent money on microtransactions? And do you believe in my assumptions that something about this seems like it's becoming much more insidious? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. By the way, just real quick here at the end, I've gotten over 2 million views in the last 30 days, and that's crazy. 2 million views this month is just such record-breaking numbers, I don't even know what to do. So thank you everybody who's been sharing my videos, and thank you to the thousands and thousands of new subscribers every week. It's I literally don't know what to say. You people are kings and queens. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you. Oh, hey. I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad, and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.